We know He is God and we know He will do it. Hallelujah, somebody. But I hope you've had a good week. I hope you've had a blessed week. Yeah, very little sleep. And yesterday, again, I heard from a beautician who says that no matter how tight your schedule is, no matter how tight it is, you should still try and get 8 hours of sleep. So ask yourself this week, if you calculate every day, have you had 8 hours of sleep? Because some of us have been, managing with like some 5 hours, 4 hours. Some of you even do as little as 3 hours. How do you manage? Your health is important. I know you're looking for money. I know you have, deadlines to meet. Work is calling, family. But you still need to make time to sleep because at the end of the day, when you fall sick, they will easily replace you. If you die today, they'll look for someone else to do your job for you. So I know you really want to meet those targets, but are you taking care of your health as well? Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? A lot of us have fallen short of all these, but it's time for us to get that wake-up call and realize that, Charlie, people are dying, and now we're being told that a lot more young people are suffering from stroke, developing all these heart diseases that you'd have thought that, it only happens among the older folks. Now even young people are experiencing it. So as much as you're grateful, yes, you probably got a deal, you won your contract, you're making so much money, make some time and get some rest as well. Your boss will understand, your boss is human. But your boss even needs sleep as well. So sometimes take a break and relax and rest. Rest the brain, rest the body. It's important. And that's what I'll leave you with this morning before we start off. But talking about eating healthy as well, a lot of us unfortunately spend many hours out of our homes. And so we don't have a choice than to order food from this restaurant or that restaurant, or you go to the Amelia on the roadside, get some wache, get some rice and all of that. But have you ever stopped to think of what you're consuming and if it's healthy and maybe the health implications that could come from it? I mean, you're thinking that because it is a food vendor or a restaurant, they would also take your health into consideration. But sometimes things happen and you end up with food poisoning and all those other things. And I know that lots of you are now sitting back and thinking, hey, Charlie, I ate jollof from this restaurant yesterday, or I ate wache from this vendor by the street yesterday. Am I at risk? Are you? Let's pray you're not. But yesterday we got many reports from different people complaining of stomach ache and food poisoning from food that they ate from Marwako, one of the branches of Marwako, in fact, the East Legon branch. And so a lot of them, in fact, I saw a tweet from a young man who said that, I don't know if he was exaggerating, but about 70 of them were at Nyaho Clinic and they had all been confirmed to have food poisoning. And they all also confirmed that they bought food from Marwako on Sunday evening. So if you listen to the PRO, he says that even those who bought food from Sunday mid-morning till before 4:30 p.m., they all did not suffer from food poisoning. It's those who bought between 4:30 p.m. up until 12 a.m. They are the ones who have complained of food poisoning. When they heard of the complaints, they stepped in, they paid for some of the bills of these people, they visited some of them in their homes and all of that. But the FDA yesterday visited the Marwako branch at East Legon, and they took some samples of their food because even as such yesterday, they had still prepared food, were ready to sell. In fact, I'm sure that they had sold to some people. And that's why I was a little worried because I would have thought that they would have halted operations and tried to figure out the cause of, the poisoning before they even continue. But again, they've bought food products and all of that. So I guess that they were also thinking of their business, but people's health first and your customers. So FDA visited them yesterday and they took some samples. And in fact, they have released a statement that I'm going to be reading for you. So those of you who probably got food from the East Legon branch on Sunday, this is what the FDA has said about it. It says that the FDA, in collaboration with the Agyapa West Municipal Assembly, has suspended all activities of the Abilinkwe branch of Marwako restaurant in addition to the East Legon branch as part of the ongoing investigations on the suspected food poisoning incident. The La branch of Marwako has also been closed. As part of its investigations, the authority has also visited Yeboah and Dell hospitals, both in East Legon, for more information on the reported cases of the suspected food poisoning. The authority's Center for Lab Services and Research has taken relevant samples for further analysis to establish the cause of the food poisoning. As stated in our earlier notice, all necessary actions are being taken, including revisiting all branches of the Marwako restaurants to establish the extent of the incident in order for corrective actions to be initiated to prevent any further harm to the public. And this was signed by the CEO, Food and Drugs Authority of Ghana. So That's the statement that was put out yesterday. And also, there have been concerns about the fact that one of these branches had its food license also it had expired as at the time that they visited the branch. The PRO says that they had forwarded, a request from one of the branches to the FDA to renew their license. But in fact, this particular branch that the FDA visited as well, they realized that their license had expired. And so they refused to give us details of which of the branches it was, but they said they are conducting further investigations and they will apprise us as and when as to what decision will be taking and what really was the main cause of the food poisoning. And so just a reminder, if you bought some food from Marwako within that period on Sunday or any time recently, maybe you should just visit the hospital and just be sure of yourself as well. And this is just a caution to all the restaurants, all the food vendors as well. I know sometimes you put the business money making ahead of your customer, and it's very problematic when you do that, because one silly mistake and you could land yourself in trouble. So please, as much as you're thinking of the money, think of the health of your customers as well, and adhere to the health and safety protocols that you need to adhere to, as a food production company, so that we all will stay safe. I mean, if your customers are healthy, your business also stays afloat. If they are not healthy, your business runs down and it affects you. And so all that money that you're chasing at the end of the day, where would it go? So please be careful. And I mean, as citizens as well, I know we don't have much of a choice because, like I said, you spend so much time out of the house. You have to rely on some of these food vendors to provide you with lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever, depending on what time you're out of the house. But also just be careful about where you purchase your food from and insist when you get there. Sometimes I get to a food vendor and I see so many flies and they haven't bothered to even cover, their food and stuff. I walk away because I'm worried. And these are even the ones that you can see. What about those that you cannot see? Because some of the food is packed at the back. So you don't see Obeto Nam saying, then they go back there and go and take it. You're not sure what you're buying. So let's all just be a bit more careful. But aside that as well, yesterday the finance minister has been speaking on the inflation rate and, of course, everything else in between concerning the economy of Ghana. I remember that yesterday it was announced by the Ghana Statistical Service that our inflation rate had jumped to 23.6%, an all-time high in the last 18 years. The last time we recorded this was back in 2004. And so at this point, goods and services are very expensive now. They've skyrocketed. Transport, of course, we know has increased by 20% because of increase in fuel. That also has culminated in what we're now witnessing as the inflation rates. The health minister says that we're not the only country that's suffering from the food, fuel, and financial crisis. In fact, 41 other African countries have also been hit by it. And it's as a result of the global economical crisis and not just Ghana's lack of managing the economy. And so let's not necessarily blame the finance ministry for the woes that Ghanaians are experiencing at the moment. It is as a result of what's happening on the global and international markets. I don't know what you make of this, but yesterday he was asked about whether we're likely to go back to the IMF looking at the situation that we find ourselves in. He says that, well, maybe the white people want us to go to the IMF at all costs. But even IMF has seen that we've put measures in place to ensure that the economy is stabilized. And so there's no way we're going to go back. But his mind is on the Agyapa deal. And, they're looking at a way of restructuring it and still bringing it back. That is what the minister says. He says, my mind is still on the Agyapa deal. Even the president's mind is still on the Agyapa deal. Let's listen to him. I mean, yesterday he met the press along with the Ministry of Information. And these are some of the things that he touched on.
Of whether monetization of mineral royalties or listing of the company is bad or good. It is good because that is how you raise resources. The question is the process of doing that. If we have a problem with the process, let's articulate it, let's cure it, but let's not drop, something that would be good for us and reduce our debt exposure. My mind is still there. I know the president has mentioned something about that going through the AG and Parliament again to do that. But it's not something that I think is an asset to the country that one needs to drop. You need to examine all your equity and debt positions and make the best choice for the country.
So that is the finance minister explaining why it's likely we're going to come back with the Agyapa deal. Well, Martin has just joined us. Martin Asiedudate is my boyfriend for the morning. Yesterday, it was Samani. Today is Martin. Earlier, it was Roland. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Have you slept?
Yes, I've had a few. I mean, I blinked and had to wake up again.
I know. So what, maybe like 3-4 hours?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Forgive us. It's not our fault.
For God and country.
For God and country. You're being a citizen, not a spectator.
Absolutely.
But I hope you've had a good week.
Yes, the week has been good so far.
Okay.
Monday I was off, but then the rest of the week has been quite busy with especially on the news front.
Yeah,
so it's
with
been quite
inflation and all of that.
Yeah,
It's
and
not been easy.
Before the week began, weekend, you were looking glamorous on the stage.
Oh, thank you.
Of the VGMAs.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank
Great,
you.
great.
Yeah. So the finance minister says that Agyapa is still on my mind, and we're going to figure out how we're going to bring it back, at least, so that it can also give us the royalties that we require.
I think for the government, as it stands now, they really need almost every source of revenue they can generate. They need money. So if they believe that for the medium to long term, the Agyapa deal is a good source of revenue for the country, they will push every button possible. The concern, however, is that it seems to have divided opinions in the country. There's a clear split on how we should monetize our resources, our mineral royalties. So maybe if government is thinking of bringing it back, they should broaden the conversation, get a lot more people to talk about it. Let us understand why it is needed and how to better place it for the general benefit of all. The few concerns people have shared is that it looks as if it's just for a select few who are going to be beneficiaries at the end. That is a concern. And then it is our resources, not for the resources of a few.
Yeah.
If all of those concerns are ironed out, I'm sure that, I mean, for the medium to long term, people will agree that if the minerals are in the ground and we need to mine them and probably collateralize them, it will benefit us for the long term.
And that's the thing. So it takes me back to e-levy. And we were also asking about the same thing, because we kept asking that, are you going to engage Ghanaians enough for them to totally understand and fully understand what e-levy seeks to do before you go ahead and implement it? They visited what, about 3-4 regions, and then it was passed.
Yeah.
And so the same with Agyapa.
Yes.
I mean, we're even lucky that Martin Amidu, the former special prosecutor, was able to bring out those details. Otherwise, a lot of us would not even have understood fully what the Agyapa deal was about. Are we going to see the same thing play out with this? Because
That's
even e-levy, with all our concerns, they still went ahead and passed it. And we're paying it now. Will we see that play out?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the unfortunate components of multi-party democracy, or democracy as it stands. Because if you have a majority in parliament that only agrees to everything the executive throws into parliament, then they would always have their way. For the Agyapa deal, it's not just the minority as a political party that has raised concerns. So civil society organizations, especially those in the mining sector, say that there are certain clauses and, portions of this deal we need to properly iron out and agree on.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people were consulted, or groups or civil society organizations were consulted before, even yesterday when the finance minister said it's going to be revisited and resubmitted. The president, first, when there was a general uproar about it, said they were going to bring it back, but it will be after further consultation, which people have been consulted. Has Parliament been consulted? These civil society bodies that raised it, have they also been in the, as part of the conversation? We do not know those nitty-gritty details, but we just have heard, after a long silence, that government is very likely to bring it back. We probably might go to those people who raised the earlier concerns and say, okay, have you now been consulted? Do you understand? Have there been clauses taking out, new additions made? What are your new thoughts?
They have not been consulted, and that's the thing. And Dr. Steve Manteau spoke yesterday, and this is what he said, that we had expected that the finance minister, given that he made public that the transaction document has been revised, it would have been good if they were acting in good faith to disclose the revised documents for us to be able to interrogate it and assure ourselves that the concerns we had about the transaction had been adequately taken care of. Some of us have been trying to have access to to the supposed revised documents without success. So they have not been given this document.
Maybe him or his group. But I get the feeling that government would have done something. Like the e-levy you mentioned, because people said that wider consultation hadn't been done quickly, town hall meetings were held, regional meetings were held, and you got the sense it was rushed.
Yeah.
Half the questions they asked were not properly answered, and then they were going to region just to tick the boxes of we've done consultation.
But how many regions did they even visit?
Not even more. It wasn't more than half of the country's regions. So that is a concern, or one of the problems people have with the fact that this current administration, it could be a very good idea for the benefit of all, but then the approach, the decision to a few people decide on it and then want to immediately implement it, leaving out, jumping the queue of those who need to give the necessary clearance or understanding are all left behind. And then when it goes and hits a snag, now you are going to reverse and then go through the process you could have gone through before bringing it, to this level. We can only watch and wait and interrogate and question and hope that the right thing is done, even if it is for the greater good. Give us the understanding. Let us be in the same boat, because the e-levy you have proposed, we are the ones paying for it. We are the one. I mean, people have decided not to use mobile again. It's a difficulty, but it is part of our lifestyle now, having, e-cash.
More transactions when e-levy is passed. After 3 months, there will be a rise in transactions again. I'm waiting patiently to see if this report really will live up to expectation, because we're waiting for 3 months to see if people will go back to it. Because a lot of people have withdrawn their money. Even me, now when I'm even going to pay something, I hesitate.
You actually
so I'm looking for someone who has money so that I can go and withdraw, pay for me now, and I'll give you the money later. But we shouldn't even be in this position in the first place. And that's probably because we were not fully consulted and made to understand.
Exactly.
And again, there are wastages. What has been done about that? Have we plugged all those holes before coming back to us to ask us to pay more? Now ECG2 says we should pay more. Meanwhile, there are some wastages at ECG as well.
Yes.
Ghana Water Company. So it's like people make the mistakes, and at the end of the day, they burden the Ghanaians with it and say that even though we admit that we made some mistakes, we still want you to pay more so we can, fix the economy. How long are we going to keep doing this?
Yeah, I've always seen government and the citizenry as a chicken and egg, challenge. We want certain kinds of development to, give us better lifestyles. But then government says that to get that lifestyle, we need to pay for them to implement it. The challenges we've been paying for the last few years. Now, government says that you think you have been paying, but then the percentage of Ghanaians that pay taxes are actually very minimal. And so the money we get is very minimal. Well, what is the evidence you have done with the minimal monies that we've paid? That is the debate that has been back and forth. I mean, we are running a system that requires, and every country, taxes are needed to develop and run the economies. If you want that, convince me and prove that the monies I paid a few years ago, this is how much was accrued, these are the areas I have invested them in, and then I can feel that, yes, okay, my money is being used for something beneficial. If you travel outside, you see the roads are there, the electricity is constant. Yes, some of these things we accept and understand the challenges, but it doesn't negate the fact that you also must do the right thing, so that when I'm paying, I'm quite comforted.
Exactly. And by the way, toll booth operators who unfortunately lost their jobs when the toll booths were shut down, they picketed yesterday at the Ministry of Works, and they're saying that actually the Ministry of Roads, and they're saying that you owe us 5 months' salary. You promised us that you were going to also reassign us. Since November 18 till now, we have not received our salaries, you have not reassigned us. So we're staying there until you fulfill your promise. It's sad how much money we've lost even by just closing the road to, the toll booths as well. And now people have not been paid. We'll come back and talk about all of that and more. Later, Sefa will be joining us. Ichoki will be here. So look forward to that and more right here on TV3Newday. I'm doing this with Martin Asiedudate. So it's good to have you on the show, Martin.
I'm happy
I like
to be
your
here.
blue and
combo,
all the sauce. We'll be back.